morning, everyone. Welcome to a new week of shows here at the Call Sheet Podcast on the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Kevin Smith. Monday morning game balls. Boy, there's a lot to get to. I'm going to dive right in because we've got lots of game balls to award at multiple levels across the football spectrum here in the great state of New Jersey. It is playoff time. We just had the second round of the sectional playoffs. Sectional finals will be this coming weekend. Let's kick off the show by throwing out some game balls to some of the coaches who have visited us here at the Call Sheet Podcast, who will be playing in sectional finals. The Group 5 final here in South Jersey will feature two teams whose head coaches have been guests here at the Call Sheet: Atlantic City's Keenan Wright, Kingsway's Mark Hendricks. At Ocean City High School, we were, I don't know if the term is fortunate enough, excuse me, to play those teams. We scrimmaged Kingsway. We played Atlantic City. They are both physical, well-coached football teams. That's going to be a heck of a final between those two. So congratulations to Coach Wright, Coach Hendricks, for reaching the sectional finals. In Group 3, Cedar Creek High School, Coach Jim Melody. He was a guest here on the Call Sheet talking about explosive plays, creating explosive plays in your offense, something Coach Melody knows an awful lot about. Cedar Creek will play Mainland Regional, which was my alma mater and is now our big rival at Ocean City. Mainland in their fourth consecutive sectional final, trying to win their fourth straight. Their head coach, Chuck Smith, I've known Chuck since I was a teenager. Chuck and I were a couple years apart in high school. Ocean City played both them as well. We're able to beat Cedar Creek, lost twice to Mainland. We didn't have our best season at Ocean City High School this year, but it's good to know that of our 5 losses, 4 of them came to sectional finalists. So if you're going to lose games, you might as well lose to some of the best teams around. So congratulations to those coaches. Cedar Creek versus Mainland, Kingsway versus Atlantic City. Those are going to be really high-level sectional finals. The Group 4 final between Winslow Township and Millville will be just a Division I preview. You're going to have scholarship athletes all over that field. Just great football. Great football here happening in the state of New Jersey and all across the country. So game balls to those coaches, and best of luck this weekend in the sectional finals. Another South Jersey resident for whom we will award a game ball, Indianapolis Colts running back Jonathan Taylor, who had a monster day for the Colts in Germany against the Atlanta Falcons, went off 286 total yards, 244 rushing, added another 42 receiving, willing the Colts to a 31-25 overtime victory. He had a walk-off touchdown to end that contest. Jonathan Taylor on pace now to basically duplicate Saquon Barkley's season from a year ago. He's on pace for 1,936 rushing yards. That's a little bit less than Barkley had last year. Barkley went over 2005 or 6, I believe. But Taylor's on pace for 26 touchdowns, which would better Barkley's number from a year ago. He has been every bit as dominant as Saquon Barkley was last season. He should absolutely be in the MVP conversation. I'll never forget the first time I saw Jonathan Taylor. We at Ocean City were about to play Deptford High School, and we drove up to see Deptford to scout them as they were playing Salem High School. And we knew that Salem had this great running back. Everybody was talking about this guy. He was, even in high school, he was about 220 pounds. He was faster than anybody on the field. Salem's first possession of the game, first play of the game, they ran the ball in between the tackles, and this monster took it 80 yards to the end zone. But the thing that blew me away watching Jonathan Taylor at Salem High School was how fast he was. I didn't even know at the time that he was the state 100-meter champ. You think about that today, Jonathan Taylor, 5'11", 228 pounds, thickly built to run between the tackles. he's also a state champion 100-meter runner. And you saw that yesterday when he ripped off an 81-yard touchdown run where he basically ran the ball into a pile of bodies inside, disappeared for a moment, and then reemerged, bouncing it outside, and he just ran away from everybody, the D-backs included. He is a special running back, South Jersey resident, game ball, Jonathan Taylor of Wisconsin and Salem High School. Game ball, Mike McDaniel, head coach, Miami Dolphins, for engineering one of the most impressive victories of the 2025 NFL season. The Dolphins didn't just beat the Buffalo Bills on Sunday, they beat up the Buffalo Bills 30-13. An unbelievably unlikely win because you have to remember, man, this is Mike McDaniel's Dolphins team that after 7 games, they were 1-6, hot seat watch in effect. All the pundits talked about how Mike McDaniel could be the first coach to be fired this season. That, I don't want to call it honor, distinction, ended up going to Brian Callahan in Tennessee. But Mike McDaniel has quietly, let's not say righted the ship, but the Dolphins have won 2 of 3. And as defensive end Bradley Chubb said after yesterday's win, they are delusional enough to believe that they could still make the playoffs, that they could still be competitive. That quote unquote delusion, which, you know, I mean, I have to believe he was being somewhat sarcastic, but really what that is that belief comes from the top down. When the head coach is the guy who sets the tone in the locker room, who establishes the culture, and the culture appears to be that of a team down and out and written off that has not yet gotten the message. Hey, you guys aren't supposed to be winning these games. Credit the head coach. Credit the head coach for that. And this is a Miami franchise that last week laid off its longtime general manager and gave Mike McDaniel basically a let's see how you do for the rest of the year deal before we make a decision on you. I mean, there's no agreement in place, but it certainly felt like the deal was, we'll let you finish out the season. Probably because we don't have anybody on staff who we want to elevate to the head coach. We don't see any candidates out there right now who we feel comfortable moving into this position. So we'll let you play it out and see how it goes. Mike McDaniel is coaching for his job in Miami. And I think he understands that. But whatever he's doing is working. So the Dolphins, arguably the best win of the NFL season. Again, man, they didn't just beat Buffalo. They beat up on Buffalo, ran the ball down their throat. 30-13 winners, 2 out of the last 3 in Miami. Game ball to the score 44-22. 44-22. I'm giving a game ball to a final score. 44-22 is an unusual final score. I looked it up. There's only been 6 of those scores in NFL history heading into this weekend. And on Sunday, we got not 1, but 2 44-22 games. First time in NFL history that we've had 2 games finish with that score in the same weekend. Seattle got off to an absolutely blazing start. They led Arizona 38-7 at halftime before settling into a 44-22 victory. And Detroit, with Dan Campbell taking over as the play caller, went down to Washington and thumped the Commanders 44-22. Interesting move on Dan Campbell's part to take away the play calling duties from John Morton. And he didn't say it would be a permanent move. He just said he felt as though Detroit, coming off of a bad home loss to the Minnesota Vikings, needed something. He needed to shake things up a little bit. And so for the first time since 2021, Dan Campbell took over the play calling. Jahmyr Gibbs rushed for $143. Jared Goff threw for over 300 yards. And the Lions went back to being the Lions and hung 44 on the Commanders. Dan Campbell, that's a guy that knows his football team. That's a guy who seems to be able, When a button needs to be pressed, he finds the right one. That's a guy who I think a lot of people around the league, or at least a lot of fans, look at him and think he's just a rah-rah guy. You know, he's great for the cameras. He does a lot of chest beating. He's out there doing push-ups and wind sprints with the team. But is he really an X and O guy? Well, I think that he has shown time and again that the answer is yeah, he's all of it. He's all of the above. He's the motivational dude who will jump into the weight room with the players. He's also the guy that can scheme up 44 points when you need him to. Game ball number 5, the weather. We are now into November. It is now the time of year where weather often becomes a factor in a game, and we saw both ends of that spectrum on Sunday. Down in Tampa, the heat index was 95 degrees, and the New England Patriots went down there in their dark blue uniforms. Tampa, as the home team, got to choose what uniforms they wore. They decided to go with their pewter. I don't even know if that's, I guess that's a color, right? Some kind of grayish, I don't know, pewter, whatever. I associate it with like pirates. They went with their pewter and white because of how hot it was going to be. And the Patriots then went with their dark blues into the 95 degree heat and came away with a convincing win over the Buccaneers. Heck of a job Mike Vrabel is doing. But what a tremendous job to get his players acclimated to that heat. That is no easy task. Teams, particularly those from the Northeast, often struggle to go into that Florida climate in mid-season when they're no longer acclimated to the heat. Much like Southern teams oftentimes struggle to come north and play in sub 40 degree weather. So great job by the Patriots dealing with the weather in Florida yesterday. And on the other end of the spectrum, up at Soldier Field in Chicago, it snowed for the Bears-Giants game. First snow game of the NFL season. I don't know about you, but I am a sucker for a snow game. I would watch any game if it were played in the snow. If they televised like a Pee-wee football game with 7 and 8 year olds and it was in the snow, I'd probably watch it. Something about the snow and football, that's romantic to me. Although the only snow game I ever played in my life, up at Union College back in 1990, was also the only time I ever got a concussion playing football, at least a diagnosed concussion. I hate to say this, but I probably had several, at least mild concussions throughout my days as a football player that were written off as he just got his bell rung. You know, shake it off and get back in there, kid. That was obviously the philosophy of the day. We now know that philosophy to be reckless and dangerous, but it was what it was, I should say. And I got a concussion playing up at Union College when my head hit the frozen turf, which the turf in 1990 was basically like a layer of felt over concrete. So you can imagine there were lots of turf-induced concussions back then. So snow game up in Chicago, and I look forward to more snow games. Nothing better than watching a game in the snow. Game ball number 6, Matthew Stafford. I mentioned that Jonathan Taylor should be in the MVP conversation. So should Matthew Stafford, who on Sunday became the first quarterback in NFL history to throw at least 3 touchdowns and no interceptions in 4 straight games. He also became the 9th quarterback in NFL history to reach 400 touchdowns when he threw 4 TDs, leading the Rams to a big win over the 49ers. On the season, Matthew Stafford has 25 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions as he closes in on the ripe old age of 38. He is getting better, it seems, with age. The pairing, Matthew Stafford was good for a long time on some really bad Detroit teams. But the trade to LA that has paired him now with Sean McVay has really elevated his career to another level, even as he approaches his late 30s. He is doing special things on a football field. And the Matthew Stafford no-look pass has become one of my favorite football highlights. It seems like he does it every week now. I think he debuted it in that Super Bowl against Cincinnati a few years back in a pivotal moment where he looked off a defender, looking right, and then literally throwing the ball away from his eyes. We see NBA point guards do it. You don't very often see NFL quarterbacks do it. And Matthew Stafford does it now on a weekly basis. And here's another one. Opposite end of the quarterback spectrum, but no less game ball worthy. Davis Mills, quarterback, Houston Texans, who led the Texans to a 26-point fourth quarter. Houston outscored Jacksonville 26-0 in the fourth quarter to come back from down 29-10 and beat the Jaguars 36-29. That's a game where there were 65 total points scored. The over-under in that game was 37.5. I took the under, stupidly, because Houston was averaging giving up 12 points per game at home. And I was like, well, they're only giving up 12 points a game, and their quarterback's going to be Davis Mills. This feels like a 17-12 game. But oh no, it was not. It was a 36-29 shootout in which Davis Mills, career backup, a guy who I feel like one day is going to be in one of those commercials for, I don't know what insurance company it is, but now it features like stand-ins. They call on all the backups. Teddy Bridgewater is in one of them. Tommy DeVito is in one of them. Good commercials, smart commercials. I feel like Davis Mills would be perfect. He's been a career backup, but he had his day in the sun on Sunday, leading Houston to a big comeback victory that keeps their season alive. Had they lost that one and gone down 5 games in the loss column, I mean, you could have piled the dirt on their season. All right, last one, last game ball. Let's wrap the show with this. Game ball to every football fan out there who admits that they don't know anything. Game ball to the know-nothings. You know why? Because you're the most honest people. You're so much more honest than all the experts, so-called experts, claiming that they know what's going on. Because what is going on? What is going on in this NFL season? Did anyone see the Jags and Texans combining for 65 points? Did anyone see the Dolphins thumping the Bills yesterday? Did anyone see the Jets after trading away Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner beating the Browns on a day when Justin Fields threw for 54 yards? Justin Fields threw for 54 yards yesterday, and the Jets won. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody knows what the hell's going to happen. You don't get paid in this line of work, the line of work in which I now find myself, for uncertainty. You don't get paid by coming on and saying, I don't know what the hell's going to happen. I mean, you can look at the analytics and the numbers. You can look at matchups. I mean, I've been doing it, right? And I took with a reasonable amount of success. I got 30 years of coaching experience. I've been playing in coaching football since I was 8 years old. And I'm only reasonably successful at this. I mean, like, it's ridiculously hard to try to figure out what's going to happen. The better move, I think, is to say, I really don't know, but after it all happens, I'll help you sort it out. I'll help you make sense of it. Now, given the fact that betting on football is so popular, that's an unpopular take. Everybody wants you to tell them what's going to happen so they can wager on it and make money. But it is hard. And so hats off and a game ball to all of you know-nothings who admit you don't know what the heck's going to happen, because the NFL is unbelievably unpredictable. And that's what makes it so fascinating, because on any given Sunday, the downtrodden Dolphins can beat the powerful Bills, etc. So, from the high school coaches who are headed to sectional finals to the NFL coaches who had impressive performances. To all the players, congratulations. Keep football the best sport on the planet. All right, that is our Monday show. We'll be back Wednesday. Coach Lasasso joining me again after a week off for our whiteboard show. And that'll be, again, a great conversation as we break down the X and O's of the great game of football. Join me then. Until then, hope everybody has a great day. Take care.